Good afternoon and welcome to Frank's here in Jakarta, Frank's Bar and Smokehouse. My name is Werner Jayson and I'm the smoke master here. Originally born in Germany, and as a young man when I was 13 years old moved to the United States, and later on moved to San Antonio, Texas. And it was in San Antonio, Texas that I learned, I was introduced to smoking. I think there's probably as many smokers in Texas as there are Texans. So everybody on the weekend gets out their barbecue and or their smoker and start smoking. And that's what I did and fell in love with it. And every weekend I had smoked some brisket, smoked some pork, and later moved up to actually what I think is the smoking capital of Texas, Austin, which is Central Texas smoking style. And that's really when I got introduced to using different woods, mesquite or post oak, which they like to use, and experimenting with those. Got into the golf industry and worked 36 years in the golf business, which brought me here to Indonesia. And through that, I just recently retired. An old friend of mine asked me if I could smoke a brisket, and I said, yeah, I used to do that. And we started smoking briskets over here, and here I am sitting now to my left, which is a smoker that we built here in Jakarta, locally. It's modeled after a 250-gallon smoker in the United States. It's an offset smoker. That means the heat comes from over there, the meat sits in here, and the smoke traverses through here and out the chimney. So it's pretty big, and we can put something like 60 kilos in here at one time if we want to. Smoking is an interesting thing. I find it's not a science, it's an art. It's never exact. Every day is different. The wood is different, the air temperature is different, the meat that you buy is different. So you have to adjust and react to all that. The good thing is you have 12 hours to do that. It's not like cooking a steak where you throw it on a hot grill and you got minutes to get it to where you want it. Here we have the opportunity to put our meat in early in the morning, as we do, 6 in the morning, and then watch the temperature, watch the smoke, and adjust it. And it's magic. After 12 hours, you pull out this meat, and it's tender and it's flavorful, and it's what makes people come to Frank's and try our meat every day. I modeled the whole system after Central Texas, which has a long history of smoking. It was actually started with the Germans and the Czechoslovakians that came to Texas as farmers. Some of them became butchers. And the farmers would bring their meat to the butcher, and the good meat they take back to the farm and eat. And the bad meat, the bad cuts or the lesser cuts, the butcher would make into either sausage or smoke it to preserve it mostly and tenderize it. Later, when Texas started growing cotton, and a lot of the migrant workers came to Texas to pick that cotton, they worked early in the morning, and by 9 o'clock they were hungry. And so they went over to the butcher, and the butcher gave them the cheapest cut of meat, which was smoked brisket, cut it off, put it on a brown piece of paper, gave them some chopped onions and some pickles and a piece of bread and some barbecue sauce maybe. And that was their meal at 9 in the morning. And that tradition is still the tradition in Central Texas today. Most of the old smokehouses like Kreutz's, they open only for lunch. You can have a brisket sandwich at 9 in the morning, but usually by 2 o'clock, they're out of smoked meat. And that's the same here. We smoke early in the morning. We try to estimate how much business we'll have, but we do run out. There's, it's 8 o'clock at night, you you're out of brisket. It's not like you can throw on another one and have it ready in a half hour. So when you're out, you're out. And people know that. Most of the folks here, they come early. They come 6 o'clock, 6:30, right when I pull it out of the smoker, and I let it rest for a little while so that the juices come back into the meat. And then we start slicing it. And but a lot of times we're out of it by 8 o'clock because it's so popular. We actually smoke a couple of things, not just brisket, which is one of my favorite meats to smoke, because to me, brisket is magic. The thousands of pieces of meat that I smoked over the years, I still get excited every evening when I pull out that brisket that in the morning was as hard as a rock, because it's a tough muscle. And at night I pull it out and it's tender and it's juicy and it's kind of wiggly, and you know when it's wiggly, it's done. And it's magic. And nobody knows how that happens. But besides the brisket, we do smoke pork ribs and pork shoulder. The pork shoulder we use as pulled pork, and of course our ribs, we call them fall off the bone ribs, are also real popular here. Oh, I shouldn't forget our smoked sausages. We do. I did go down to Bali to an old friend of mine, German butcher, and we created a Central Texas favorite, which is a jalapeno cheese sausage. It's a beef sausage, and we have chopped jalapeno peppers and cheddar cheese inside. And when we smoke that, it's really wonderful. The beef kind of dries out a little bit, and when you cut into it, you got to be careful because the melted cheese will squirt at you. And then you've got this wonderful, jalapeno bite you in the throat, where you have to drink a beer after you have one. So, yeah, that's one of my favorite things to smoke, and they go real quick. We also smoke chicken wings. I don't do chicken because actually I'm not good at smoking chicken. It always dries out on me, and I don't like smoking chicken. It's too small. So I do the wings, and I do turkey. So for Thanksgiving, we're gonna take a big bird turkey and put it into the smoker here. Smoking is, it's a passion. I'm 64 years old, and I'm retired from my full-time job. I was CEO of a major golf management company, and here I am, having the ball of my life, getting up every morning, starting that wood fire, which takes me about an hour to get going. Some mornings takes a little bit longer, and once it gets going, you get to see the dirty smoke kind of move out, which burns your eyes and penetrates your clothes for the rest of the day. And then you get that finer smoke, and the heat of the smokers has come up to about 250 degrees. You go inside and you apply the rub to the brisket, and I've been using the same rub for the last, God, it must be 30 years, never changed it. And then you put the brisket in, and we wash it every hour. We open it up. Because once it's in, you shouldn't open the smoker that much. A lot of people make that mistake. They get Curious George syndrome. Wonder what it's doing. Well, it's doing fine, and it'll do even better if you don't bother it. It likes to be left alone. So in Texas, we say, if you're looking, you're not cooking. So that means every time you open this up and look, you're gonna lose temperature and you're gonna lose smoke. And that's not good. So I leave it in here for an hour, leave it alone, open it up, apply some moisture to it so it doesn't dry out. The more the meat evaporates in the smoking process, the more it breaks down the tough fibers, and the juicier it becomes and the more tender it becomes. And that happens till about 160 degrees. And then something strange happens around that temperature. And I didn't understand it when it first happened to me. I wanted to pull it out at about 204 degrees. That's the recommended temperature. And at 160, I was anticipating maybe another half hour and be done. And after a half hour, it was still 160. And I said, well, what's going on? I put more wood in there, figured I'd get a little hotter, moved the meat around, and half hour later, it was still 160. And I said to my friend, well, the hell with this, let's just pull it out, we're hungry, let's eat. And the brisket was okay, but it wasn't as tender as we liked it. And then I did some studying up on it. And what happens is that the brisket hits what they call the wall. At 160 degrees, it has evaporated all its moisture, and there's no more moisture to raise the temperature, to excite those molecules, to get them hot. And that's what raises temperature. So in Texas, when you're in the restaurant business, most of them use what they call the Texas cheat. And you take some aluminum foil and you wrap it. Or you can take butcher paper, that's actually the best thing. And you wrap it up, and when you wrap that up, it creates moisture again. And in about 4 hours, you will see that meat is just perfect. In fact, the temperature, if you stick a thermometer, goes from 160 to 170 within a half hour, immediately. Immediately it starts rising. And that's what we do. We wrap it. Now you can, if you have time, just let it be in there for 18, 20 hours. And eventually it'll work through the wall. It'll eventually will get up to 204 degrees, but it's a different kind of meat. It looks it looks really black, and in Indonesia, Indonesians, they don't like to see black meat. I think it would scare them if they saw that piece of meat the way it comes out after 18 hours. So we pull it out after about 14 hours after it hit the wall, and then we let it rest. So like I said before, it's not a science. You have to play with it. You learn every day. I'm still learning because now we're going to get into the rainy season here, and right now my wood is a lot wetter than I like it to be. I can't get it as aged, so every time I put it on, it's a lot of water, a lot of juice coming out, which kind of makes the temperature go down. I'm sitting here watching it, and yeah, we're doing all right. We're right where we want it to be. And that's really the job of a smoker once the meat is in. It's all about how much smoke it's generating. Because if you're not generating smoke, you might as well just put the meat in an oven and cook it in there. So it's not about the heat. Obviously the heat cooks the meat, but it's about the smoke and creating that smoke ring once you slice it, which is this wonderful red ring that you'll see. So you have this brown piece of meat, and then towards the edge you get this red ring, and then you get the black bark, which is actually the rub that you put on it. We use a mix of a rub, as I mentioned before. I've used it for 30 years. In Texas, they just use salt and pepper. The Packard brisket in Texas is so good, so flavorful, that you don't need a lot of spices. Here, we import our meat from Australia, and it's not as the steers just aren't as heavy. The cattle isn't as heavy as in the United States, and they're grass-fed over there. It does make a difference. Here, we like to buy our briskets around between 6 and 8 kilos. In Texas, your briskets run between 9 and 11 kilos. So there's a difference. Anything under, 5.5 kilos, I don't even bother smoking, because I know no matter what I do, it'll come out dry and not as tender as I want it to be. So starting with the right piece of meat, having the right wood, and of course, having a great smoker is the key to this. And it's a dirty job. I mean, it's not like being a 5-star chef in a fancy hotel restaurant. I mean, you're out there, it's hot, the smoke is in your face all the time, you're sweating. I don't know how many pairs of jeans I've gone through My wife's going to get really pissed every time. I'm like a little boy that comes home playing in the mud yard. You know, she goes, "What the heck have you been doing today?" "Oh, hon, I've been smoking." She said, "Look at you, you're a mess." You know, so it's part of the fun, you know, being a little boy again. You get dirty, and then there's certain the smoke penetrates your skin, your hair, and you can take 2 showers and I still smell it. Where's the smelly smoke? I smell smoke, you know. And I was talking to a really good blues guitar player that was here at Frank's the other night. We had a lot in common because, you know, the blues is a down to earth. It's a grassroots sound, and smoking is really down to earth. There's nothing fancy about it. It's grassroots. What you see is what you get. It's been around since caveman times. In the old days, they made a fire in the cave, they hung their meat in the cave, and they discovered that the meat that was hanging closer to the fire tasted better. So it's as basic as that. You don't have to go to the Culinary Institute of the United States. You don't have to go to a fancy French culinary school to learn how to smoke. You just gotta love meat, and you gotta love serving it to other folks. Sit around, have a beer, and just have a good time. And one of the things I enjoy is that once the beer is in, the meat is in, you have a beer. You know, sit there, relax. I'm thinking about getting a hammock over there actually, so I can kind of take a little snooze while I'm waiting for the meat to do its thing. And that's about it. You know, I hope you have an opportunity to, when you're in Jakarta, to stop by and see me at Frank's and share a beer, and I'll have a brisket or a sausage. And wish you all the best. And for those of you who want to get into smoking, it's a wonderful thing. You're going to love it. Take care.